Welcome, everyone, to episode 12 of the SkyTemple Podcast, an exercise in enthusiastic rambling about Explorers of Sky ROM hacks. My name is MaxSchersey, coming to you live from the U.S. West Coast of Down Under, Australia. I'm joined by yakkomon. We are in the midst of Hack of the Year judging. I believe we were last episode as well, but, things have really picked up. That's been a lot of what many people in the SkyTemple community have been doing, and anything else that you've been doing the past couple weeks, Yakko?
Well, I guess not much. My life is pretty uninteresting. I guess I'm a casual follower, though, like a lot of Australians are. They take a more of an interest in soccer every 4 years, and following the World Cup. And I'm pleased to report that last night we won a match, which Australia hardly ever wins matches at a World Cup. So it's a day of celebration here. I don't
Exciting.
think we've won in. Yes, I don't. Apparently, we haven't won a match in a World Cup for the last time was back in 2010 or something, which was 4 tournaments ago. I don't know. So that was fun. So apologies if any of you are listening in Tunisia. We whooped you.
Wow, the facts are coming in hot. Yeah, there's something just great about sports like that. Full disclosure, I have not really been watching the World Cup, but it is a socially acceptable avenue for just pure tribalism to come out, pure nonsense tribalism, and it's great. I love sport.
Absolutely.
So in ROM hacking news, this week we are talking about Techticks, who has 2 hacks that are currently out. Both of them released this year. The first one, City of Light, that we're going to be talking about, was May Hack Jam and Rainbow Heritage, the October Hack Jam it was September. It was September. I forgot. We moved it up this year. But yeah. One for both hack jams. And before that, Techticks was probably should have looked this up, but it just now came to mind that I should probably mention this, that he's also someone who worked on the SkyTemple program, like a contributor to it, as well as a major contributor. I think like the project head, or at least like the public figure of the Rescue Team DX hacking software that came out a couple months ago, Dream Nexus. And if I remember, we may get some more details on that in the interview coming up later. So that is the background coming in, and then of course someone who knows a little bit of the ins and outs making a hack. That's always something pretty exciting. I don't know if you felt this way too, Yakko, when you saw that Techticks was coming out with a hack. There's kind of a lot of like, oh, what's he gonna do, right?
Yeah. I actually originally, when I saw the trailer for the DX hack, I thought that this was a third Sky hack. To be honest, because I forget about Dream Nexus sometimes, because I guess it's a more of it's earlier in its life, I suppose. So yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, I see. No, it's good. It's good to see just how far just Mystery Dungeon hacking has become, and because I've said it all through this podcast, Mystery Dungeon hacking, there's this rich untapped potential both in the gameplay and the story department.
Yeah,
Um,
without question.
I will say before we move on, I completely forgot to write a new section for this podcast, but I do want to, in case you haven't seen, because I think it's important to mention it for anyone who may have missed it in the server or on the SkyTemple Twitter account, is that there is now a demake. Speaking of a third Mystery Dungeon game, there is now a demo of a demake of Gates to Infinity available as a ROM hack. I haven't experienced it myself. I don't know how long it is. It's I think it ends when you get to Post Town, I think.
I believe
But
that's what that
or at
said.
least
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there is a demake for Gates to Infinity. It's called Explorers of Infinity. Um, and I know when it was posted on the SkyTemple Twitter account, that post popped off. Like the retweets, the likes, the shares, they were coming in hot. This is something that has gotten people very excited. So if you're one of the people that have been living under a rock and didn't know, well, now you know.
I know.
It's big times. I think it just goes to show how far, like how awesome ROM hacking is. So just I love it.
Yeah. In a perfect world, once this gets finished, people will realize that Gates to Infinity was always a good game all along, and there was never a reason to hate it. That's my
Preach.
hot take of the day. Also in news, because I think this was within the past 2 weeks. I totally forgot to write this down as well. There's a SkyTemple Mastodon server now. Or instance. Sorry, they call it instances. I'm new to this shit, so I'm trying to figure out how it all works. I think I've checked it like once or twice. But it does exist. There are people that are posting there, I believe, every day.
Yes.
So yeah, pretty active right now.
I know Para's on there. I think I've seen like Burrito there that we've talked to, and Ass Cucumber as well. There's a few there. And some of them aren't on Twitter too, so
It's true. It's true. Exclusive to Mastodon. Exclusivity deal. Yeah, check that out if you're trying to jump off the Twitter fire of the month. Because I'm sure there's going to be another one coming up.
Sure.
Okay, now moving on to the hack. We're going to start with City of Light, Techticks' first hack, and you said you want to lead with this one, so I'll let you talk.
Yeah, City of Light was from the May Hack Jam, and I because it's not a Hack of the Year nominee, I can say my full and frank feelings about this. I think this is a very underrated gem of SkyTemple right now. It's a great short hack that intertwines unique gameplay with an engaging and entertaining story, and really, in the competition for that May Hack Jam was just incredible. Like the standard of quality, like it was one of those hacks that I played where it was criminal that I couldn't pick it for some of the categories, because it's really tight. It's really I guess thoughtful. The story writing is really good. The gameplay mixes it up enough that it's not off-putting. There is, and it even warmed me to something that I only learned about in that hack jam. It warmed me to something that I initially hated as well, which I will get into later in this topic.
Okay. We've been teasing this since last episode. Yeah, the May Hack Jam is pretty crazy. I think something that's cool about Hack of the Year, with the fact that we are doing ranked choice voting instead of first past the post, and we're also having multiple nominees, is that and as well as just us having so many judges, it's less of a chance for projects like this to fall through the crack the way that it kind of did, according to the results that came out for that May Hack Jam. Now, like you said, this is not the hack that Techticks submitted for Hack of the Year, so it's not going to literally be eligible. But I'm sure, not gonna name names, but there's a couple hacks from previous jams I think we can both think of that are probably going to receive a little more accolades than they did when they first came out. We'll see if that's true. That's just a theory I have. Very exciting. We'll have to see what happens. Guys, post your predictions down in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. We need to bring that back that bit. We did that for like episode 1 and then stopped doing it.
We were being ironic, I think, though. That's the
thing. Follow us on Spotify. I think that's how that works, right? Or do you subscribe? I don't know. I just posted on the feed. All right, there you go. Cannot listen to this on Apple Music natively because I don't know how to do that. But on Spotify. Yeah, this I agree. Great short hack that intertwines unique gameplay, engaging, entertaining story. That's what you had. Pretty much, right? I think that for a first project, what can be pretty hard is getting the like the quality control aspect of it right. I think that's the number one thing that whether it's fair or not, when I go into like playing a first project or like a first demo or whatever, I kind of assume that there's going to be typos, there's going to be formatting errors, there's going to be like bugs, sometimes game breaking and all that stuff. Not really too much with this one. Just pretty clean and well executed. So that's the first thing I want to bring up because that's something that we don't talk about very often on this podcast, but I personally think it's pretty important. And as I've for Hack of the Year judging, as I've gone through, I've weighed that more than I thought I would when I started. You know what I mean? For the categories that's applicable. So always appreciated by me. Let's talk about the writing first. The gameplay, like you said, it does shake it up. I think it generally stays like close enough to EOS with some interesting dungeon design. I don't have much more to say other than that. If you have something, then go ahead. But on story stuff, okay.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
No, sorry. I was saying that. It is more. I think my points are more on the story. I think your ones are too.
Yeah.
I think the only real gameplay consideration is something that we'll talk about later. I think.
Okay.
Again, teasers
on teasers. The way the kids are written in this hack is delightful. Poipole and grass guy, I forget his name. He's like a Fomantis, yeah. Gen 6, Gen 7 mons are all kind of a blur to me. But yes, Fomantis. They act like kids, right? They're just all curiosity and wonder, and they think that they're invincible, and they're
innocent.
They're innocent.
Really.
Yes. Very innocent, and you have a bullet on there saying that that also applies to the other hack that we're going to be talking about, Rainbow Heritage. I agree.
Yeah, Rainbow Heritage. Both hacks, I really noticed a theme of that innocence of youth, or the innocence of youth. How youth can feel like they might know better than adults at times. It's something that I think really, out of everything else, really sort of stuck out to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's very central in this hack, especially because a lot of the dynamic. I'm scrolling a little further down because I think it makes more sense to mention it here. There's my main takeaway from City of Light in particular is that systems seem absolute until they're not. is what I wrote out, right? Because Celesteela, who we're about to get into the characters after this. Don't worry, I'm not skipping over that. Celesteela, right? The whole thing is that Celesteela doesn't just like literally does not comprehend some things in this game, right? Like Celesteela doesn't understand organic life forms, like doesn't really comprehend the other world and you know, Fomantis and you know what their intentions are, and Rotom and what's his name, Togetic. I don't know how you say it.
I say Togetic, but I forget it's spelled with a Togetic.
Could be that too.
That's how it is.
But Celesteela's conditioned to listen to the computer, right? Because that the computer is what governs the society and has kept the society running. But what I think the game presents is the whole idea that the computer gives orders to be loyal to the computer, which gives orders to be loyal to the computer. So while the system does technically work, that's kind of circular logic, right? And it isn't until there is some potential disruption thrown into there, right? Because the kids, the innocents, have a kind of fresh perspective, and you know, some power friendship bullshit happens, and you know, they change the world, stop people from getting brutally absorbed into nutrients for the computer. And yeah, this
sounds so weird to say.
it is pretty weird. It is weird. And I guess once we talk into the characters, we can. I'm just working off that basis, but I think all the characters pretty much like kind of flow into that general theme in one way or another. I think it's impressive to pull this off in a short hack. I don't know if I've said this. I probably have explicitly on the podcast, but like with short hacks, it's a lot harder to write a true thematic story. I don't know how else to say that. Just because you don't have a lot of time to build things up, right? You need to be very efficient and calculated with every bit of text that you're using, because there's not going to be a lot, right? It's a lot easier to get away with building a more complex, you know, pretend I'm doing air quotes right now, complex story, when the shit's like 50 hours long and has shit ton of filler like most JRPGs, right? It's a lot harder when you're making a compact story, because if there's one part of that doesn't hit, and that was supposed to be important that your player's supposed to pick up on, they're missing a lot of your message, right? But I don't think I really had that problem with this game, obviously, because I came away from it really wanting to think about what the game was trying to say. So,
same.
Yeah.
Let's get into the characters.
Do you want to do your Ultra Beast thing now or later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it now, because that was so the May Hack Jam, both Merchants versus Pirates, which we talked about last episode, and City of Light, both contained Gen 7, very heavy influence of Gen 7, and introduced the Ultra Beasts. Now, Merchants versus Pirates was the first of the two in terms of what I played first. Merchants versus Pirates was the first that I played, and so that was a pure gameplay hack. It was, you know, difficult and all that. And I saw, actually, or was it the other way around? No, it was City of Light that I played first, because when I played them, the Ultra Beasts looked so unlike Pokemon that I thought these were all, and this is going to sound embarrassing to Techticks, but I thought these were all OC Fakemon. Like that, like to me, they look like Pokemon from, now again, I haven't played these hacks, but from like mainline hacks like Uranium or you know, one of those type of things. And And then when I found out that these were actual official Pokemon that were officially in a Pokemon game, I was like, these are not Pokemon. These don't even look like Digimon. These look like things. They they look like literal things that do not belong in Pokemon, and their designs make no sense. It was just if you showed right if you showed a group of 100 people those Pokemon, I don't think that they would be able to tell you they're from the Pokemon franchise. They would probably think that they're from a Pokemon ripoff because
Oh no.
they just they are just not. The only one that remotely looks like it is Poiple, and I think that's because it's like a little baby one that it's yet to.
Yeah,
Apparently, it's the only one that
it
evolves and all that.
evolves.
But
Yep.
like the other ones, like just all of them. I mean, Pheromosa maybe, but yes, like Celesteela and Stack Attacker and Guzzlord and all that, they just don't look like Pokemon. And I did not like them. I did not like them. I was like, wait, these are not. Again, I can't remember which one I played first. I'm pretty sure it was City of Light though, because otherwise I would have recognized them from Merchants versus Pirates.
Right.
But so here I am thinking, oh god, these are actual Pokemon. How far has this series declined? Even though this was Gen 7, this wasn't even Gen 8.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, the way that they were written won me over. And the way that they were implemented in the game won me over too. I think that and I guess that is the little gameplay element of it, is that the Ultra Beasts are they behave differently to normal Pokemon in a dungeon, both in this game and in Merchants versus Pirates. But I think if the Ultra Beasts weren't written, like if both of the Ultra Beast hacks, well, sorry, if one of the two, if none of the Ultra Beast hacks had story in them, I think I would have been like, can we please Dexit these things? Like, they do not belong. They, I stand by that still, but I mean, I can tolerate them now because it made perfect sense in terms of the actual, I guess, story. Like the fact too that they were from another dimension and everything. Like, they actually thematically fit, and I think, thankfully, just the way that they were portrayed, kind of like, it stopped me from writing a change.org petition to write directly to Ken Sugimori.
From what I understand, that's what they did in Sun and Moon as well. I have, I'm gonna be honest, I did not play those games long enough to get to that point where they actually show up. But apparently that is, they do a similar thing. Like that it's supposed to be, they're supposed to be aliens essentially, right? Like not from this world. If I'm wrong on that, please correct my misinformation in the comment section, etc.
Yeah, because I wouldn't know either. I've said it before. I stopped at Gen 4 and went through an edgy reject everything Pokemon phase until Gen 7. But that was not because of Gen 7, but because of the Detective Pikachu movie. Nostalgia baiting works, people. Like I said in episode 1.
Does. That was the Ultra Beast rant.
Let's talk about the Ultra Beasts.
That was the Ultra Beast rant.
Characters.
Celesteela is awesome. I think we could just stop there, but Celesteela is effectively the antagonist of this game, but doesn't ever really. It's very weird because what Celesteela does, from looking at it from the lens that we do, does a lot of like evil stuff. You know what I mean? But doesn't necessarily, like, Celesteela has a very distinct moral compass, right? And I think that's what keeps it interesting because they have very like cold robotic speech patterns and they're very like business like, but they're not just like totally amoral. It's that there's like a certain uh, ethical standard that they're trying to hold up, and we as players might not agree with it, but they are very self-sacrificial, and that's like the life that they have ascribed to, right? And there's certain negative consequences associated with that are explored throughout the hack. And it's there's the obvious part of that is the whole thing with the mother computer of oh, we have to bring in live sacrifices. Okay, I'll do that. A little morally questionable to us, right? But that same standard for Celestial also applies to the being very protective of Poipole, who's basically just a like I don't know, like an adopted child figure. I guess is the best way to describe
That's what
that.
I got from it. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to. There's that one scene I wrote down the part where Celesteela is inspecting Fomantis and wants to protect Poipole from boyfriends. In quotes, separated into two words. That shit was funny.
Love that.
That was very good.
I love that bit. That was like the whole concept of emotions. It was written perfectly. The perfect. I'm a robot and I have no emotions.
Yeah.
I'm programmed to do.
Right.
I like right at the end. It's like the right at the end when Fomantis and Poipole are saying goodbye to each other, and Celesteela is gossiping to Pheromosa in the lobby of and it's like, he's organic. Oh my goodness! So he's already dating an organic, but like he has leaves. It was like, oh, that was It's just
That was
just
funny.
great. I love it.
It was great for sure. I wish I had more to say, but it's just great. Like I think it's self-explanatory. We don't need to go into why that's so good.
Yeah.
Rotom is really awesome. I was not to get into Rainbow Heritage too early. I'm so glad Rotom was brought back for that game. Rotom's my favorite in this. He is. I was laughing at everything he said every scene. He's so charismatic. The first time he shows up, he goes through the wormhole, and like convinces Poipole to like lead him towards the computer. He says, "Oh, today's youth, how gullible." Rotom is like a he's like
he's like a trickster, I suppose. Like he's like that. Like he's like
he's like the guys that try to break into his house in Home Alone.
Yes, yes. That is a perfect comparison.
He's just like he's just such a dumbass. Everything he does, but he thinks that he is the smartest person alive.
Yes,
and he's very like he thinks that he is so above everyone, and he's very quick to tell everyone how stupid they are.
Yes.
And he's so funny. He's so funny. Love him. See what else. In terms of the theme, what I was saying earlier, what I think systems seem absolute until they're not. Kind of the point of Rotom, when you think about it, besides like he's funny, which just on that merit alone, like okay, sure, I'm okay with him being in the game. He's kind of used to prove a point that like he thought that he was like his whole thing is that he is above everyone else, and then if he had just listened to the kids and been with them and didn't go ahead, he wouldn't have gotten stuffed in a tube. So that's a very interesting little conundrum. And then the other part of this is Togetic, whatever. They it's kind of a flip perspective on that. Like, the only reason why they end up surviving is when they got into that bad situation. Notice how Fomantis was with them in that scene, right? When Celesteela shows up and is trying to drag them into the Hell Dimension. But Togetic is like, let the kids live, in a very, stereotypical brave hero moment. But ultimately that does save him, right? Because Fomantis is the one that turns off the computer, along with Poipole. But they both need each other, and blah 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 blah, PMD stuff. So that's cool. Other scenes that I liked, the Among Us joke. I don't want to admit that I liked it, but I did.
Yeah. It's funny. I was one of the few people that never played a game of Among Us during the pandemic.
Okay.
But I knew instantly what that was. Like, I knew exactly, like, oh my god, you said the line, and that has to be like a sound effect from the game. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, it's good too, because there wasn't, in hindsight, there kind of was lead up to it, but I just wasn't expecting it at all. And so it just hit when they were having the conversation, and it's like, so are you saying that there's an imposter among us? And then just looks straight at the camera, turns towards the camera. I'm like, I hate this game. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then speaking of memes, there's the scene where they find the computer and there's the text-to-speech. That shit was crazy when this came out, because this was before everyone and their mother was using a SMD stream in the last hack jam. This was before then, when it was still something that, like, people didn't really want to spend 10 years learning how to do. That was pretty awesome, because it actually, like, the text formatting, I think people might not understand that, like, lining that up correctly had to be such a pain in the ass. Like, I'm sure he had to go and replay that scene about 100 times to make sure that, like, the way that the letters were being typed out perfectly matched the text to speech, and all that stuff. That was awesome, and ever since I played that for the first time, it really got me thinking that, like, wow, if only sound files didn't bloat this game to shit, we could, like, you could have, like, a fully voice acted hack, and that would be amazing.
Just imagine, there is. I've given my blessing to a fandom of Explorers Retold. Could you imagine an Explorers Retold ROM with the voice acting?
Yeah, seriously. No, it's nuts. And then the second half of that scene, there's the text-to-speech part where it's just like, I'm just thinking, holy shit, the whole time, because that was really cool. And then the dramatic music kicks in, and the camera pans out, and then you see that Rotom and Togetic are trapped in the thing, and it's like, oh shit. Like, it's this hack does a very great.
Dark.
Yeah, this game does a great job of balancing the light, obviously, with the obviously sinister undertones in the background, right? And this is the advantage. This is an advantage that PMD has of I guess not really confirmed in any of them, but implied that all the main characters are kids, right? So you can, though this isn't really what the actual games do so much, but there's definitely the opportunity there to like keep the focus on kids as protagonists, and they do kids stuff, right? And that's kind of this game where they just like get into trouble, but in doing that have like some they get into like maybe a little bit too much trouble, and in the background, the adults, in air quotes, are very much in the background in this game, right? But they're still there, right? And the adults are there for us, right, to inform our knowledge of the like the world building that is presented and the actual situation that the main characters find themselves in, because they don't comprehend that. Just builds up all kinds of dramatic irony, and all of that good stuff. Yeah, I really like it. The boss fight was cool. I don't know what Necrozma's the song used for that fight. I'm sure that's a reference to something. I don't know what it is.
Was it the I forget, was it the Celesteela? Did the Celesteela fight have custom music too, or just that one?
I don't think so.
No, okay, so that is a track from Kirby Superstar. Or
Okay.
at least it is a Kirby track, because it's got those sort of musical flourishes that I've played quite a few Kirby games, so I can recognize.
Okay.
I can recognize Kirby, but I'd have to double check. I know I got asked. I asked which one specifically, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know which one, but it's a Kirby game.
Okay, so there you go. For anyone listening. Yeah.
So I guess the last thing is the ending, I suppose.
Yep.
'Cause when judging this hack jam, I mean, there wasn't a lot of explicit discussion about it, but there was, I think, it was quite interesting seeing how and I'll try and talk about this generically, so as to try it, but there were quite a number of judges who I think didn't think that the hack met the theme of the hack jam, which was various viewpoints. And that kind of, I think, I understood why, but I guess this was probably one of the only hacks that actually went deeper with the whole various viewpoints thing. Like, for me, right, the various viewpoints was, you have the youth that want to, be friends with everyone and save everyone. And then you have Celesteela, the protector of the mother computer, who, the whole idea is, if the organic life forms, if there are no organic life forms to take, the city will die. And I think you wrote in quotes, Max, about like, well, what about the city? A lot of people were wondering, what about the city? Which I guess you have experience with this, Max, because I know, you have probably had you did have a similar experience with the ending of Spirit.
Yep.
It's like not everything needs to have an answer, and also not everything like the nuance in the interpretation of the topic was definitely there. Like, the topic was peppered through thematically throughout the hack, but because it wasn't, I guess, explicitly written everywhere, some people did, I think, some people missed it, I think, and I know that is a little bit of a challenge with some of these deeper hacks in the community, that, sometimes if you don't, and I know I've even myself, like, the way I write is, I make sure things are, but sorry, let me start over. When writing a deeper hack like this, there is that risk that stuff gets lost, and I think that that is unfortunately, I think, what happened a little bit with the judging of City of Light, is that some people couldn't get the themes, but I don't think that's because the hack didn't do it. I think it's just the nature of the beast, I think. But yeah, it was really interesting to see mixed reaction to it, I suppose. I think, if you want the shorthand version of what I'm trying to say. And yeah, and I don't know what you have to say about that, Max. I think you wrote a little bit too about the ending, and hopefully I have. I think I try to keep it positive, right? Always positive
Always
podcast, and
positive.
this is, and it's not a criticism of the hack. I just found the reaction to some of the themes interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, first thing I'll say is that like art is up to interpretation. We might be totally wrong on like saying that this is what the hack is actually about. Um, like you said, to me it makes sense that there's not really an answer because here's the thing. Usually when there's a video game or whatever, this applies to other forms of art as well. There's a video game that has an open-ended ending. I think that especially because of a lot of bigger media franchises over the past decade have kind of conditioned people to think that it's just sequel bait, or it's they're going to pick it up in the sequel. This has happened so often, especially in like Marvel movies and shit, that I think people forgotten that there actually like can be a self-contained purpose for doing this stuff. And usually it's 9 times out of 10 when this happens, this means that the author, the director, whatever, is trying to present the idea of usually it's either one of two things. Either the story is cyclical, or the ending doesn't matter, or I guess the third one would be I guess that's kind of the same thing as the second. But like, if you don't know the ending, like, does that actually change the story at all? So the point of if assuming with what we started with, right? This hack is assuming that systems seem absolute until they're not. And so the climax of the game is the system of the mother computer is disrupted by the kids, and then they walk away, and then Celesteela is okay with that. And there's ambiguity left up in the air of, was that a good decision or not? And then it stops. So, like, saying that all out loud to myself, I'm not sure why you would want an answer to that, because the game kind of already gives you the answer throughout the game, right? Like, I'm not really sure. I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion. That's just me, though.
Yeah. The consequences were there if if you were paying attention. In terms of now that everyone's saved, there's no more organic life, so that's it. And I guess the final point that I wanted to, and something I'm going to ask Techticks when we get to the interview, is there is now a post-credit scene and an update that was made after the jam, and I showed you that. I thought it would actually be an explanatory scene or something, but no, it actually is a bit of almost like a teaser to be continued thing. And I do wonder, was that always planned, or was that after the fact?
I'm very curious about that too.
Some of the reaction. Or was it just a natural? Well, I'm going to continue doing something with this because, and there is a little nod a little nod to it in Rainbow Heritage, which when we'll discuss that in a minute.
Okay.
That hack, but there are little references to City of Light in a certain bonus campaign for Rainbow Heritage.
Moving on to Rainbow Heritage. Next game. So first thing that we're gonna say is that there's a bunch of ARG stuff in this game. I originally wrote down that like we're not gonna do that. Yakko decided that he was gonna do it anyways because he didn't care. I'm
I was
like, all
gonna give
right,
it a crack.
you're what?
I used an Aussie phrase. I said I'll give it a crack.
Okay, give it a crack. Yep. Um. So one thing I do know, I guess you're gonna talk about all that at the end. I think is what's gonna make the most sense. Part of the part of the viral marketing.
It's extraneous to the. Sorry.
It's extraneous to the plot. You said.
Yeah.
Okay. Part of the viral marketing for this game, right? There's a I'm a big fan of marketing campaigns for your ROM hacks that are quirky, right? There were, I'm assuming this is tied in with the ARG thing. There's a fake lore that Well Systems Incorporated, Well being in curly brackets, has bought out the rights to PMD Rainbow Heritage, and they are funding the project. Just throwing this out into the void, I think it would be funny if Rainbow Heritage were to be nominated for Best Hack in Progress, if this was credited to Well Systems Incorporated instead of Techticks. Obviously, I would clear that with him first. But I think that would be funny. That would be a good bit. That's all I have to say there. Onto the game. So Spin does custom animations in those cutscenes at the start before the flashback. Those are pretty cool. I really liked it. The one that really got me is the Spinda goes all the way, goes with Rotom if you're like me, and you instantly picked Rotom to go with you up the mountain as soon as you saw he was an option. Spinda and Rotom go up the mountain. Rotom calls you stupid a bunch of times on the way there. You get to the end, you get smoked by Ho-Oh. Then Spinda's getting sad drunk in the cafe and flops off the bar counter onto the floor on his face.
I do love the recurring trope about, Spinda's drink bar being a euphemism for an actual bar. I mean,
it is.
I mean, his actual mixing drinks animation is literally a facsimile of a cocktail shaker, like a cocktail mixer. You can't tell me that, Chunsoft just saying, yes, these are drinks.
Yeah.
Which is why I again, plugging my hack again, which is why I did the trope of Mitchell being addicted to Spinda's drinks.
It's true. That has become a little bit of a PMD classic.
And Breloom. Let's not forget Breloom.
Yep. So the first half, for people who don't know what we're talking about, there's two halves of this game, right? The first half is normal mystery dungeon, and the second half is like a tactical RPG. We're gonna get into that in a second, but the first half, talking about just the gameplay. The dungeon shortcuts are pretty cool. It's a lot like Psychic Puppets. I think we've said that a couple times on this podcast, like inspired by Psychic Puppets. Kind of a similar principle, a little bit different. How you have to actively like look around for where the shortcut is. It's pretty cool. I like it because it shakes up the gameplay of PMD 99% of the time you just want to go straight to the steps and that's it. There is more incentive here to actually look around the floor and see if you can find the secret and move forward, get more progress that way. I think I think that I'm not sure if I would like it if it overstayed its welcome more than it did. Just because, like, I think to a point it did get a little bit formulaic because it tells you at the start of the floor, right? Where like that, hey, there's secret steps on this floor. Okay. So then you just start looking around the map and whatever until you find it. I understand why that's there, because if it wasn't there, then the dungeon would be incredibly long, and some floors don't have secret steps. So you're not going to expect the player to just like look around and then not find it and then move on to the next floor. Oh, well, they're on this one, because yeah, people would get pissed off, right? So you can't really do that. But it kind of by the end turned into, well, you're just looking for the steps. You're just looking for the different steps in a different way. But I don't know. Maybe if I were doing this, because I think it's like 99% really cool, but 1% it feels like I kind of figured out the formula very early. I'm not sure what you would do. Maybe like lower the radius on when Spinda gets the exclamation mark. Know where the steps are, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually a real solution. I've been thinking about it a lot because I do think it's cool, for sure.
It was really good, and like you said, Psychic Puppets inspired. I think it was probably maybe one or two. I think there were one or two too many. I think it's more of a balance issue, like you said. That sort of that 1%.
Yeah. But I mean, it's definitely a cool concept. It's cool for like a lot of the same reasons why the skipping floors and Psychic Puppets is cool, right? It's adjustable difficulty. It rewards, just interacting with the systems and not autopiloting. That's also a common theme that we say on like every single episode. So yeah, there's that. The Holo fight, I probably spent a little too long on it because I'm outing myself as a fake gamer here. Whenever I get to the start of a boss fight in one of these hacks, I use a save state because none of y'all motherfuckers that make hacks have save points that are even close to the boss. So if I lose, I'm not trying to like undo the past 30 minutes of progress. So I did that and I kept loading my save state, and I'm like, man, how do I beat him? And then I realized it's supposed to be a force loss, and I was like, oh. So then I lost, moved on in the game. Then before we get to the flashback, anything else that you think about the first half of the game, that dungeon? Who do you pick as your partner?
Rotom as well. I
Okay.
love Rotom. So I think what the selection, if I remember, there was Rotom, Illumise from what's the one, Tempest Machina, and Flygon, I think, from Mystery Mail 2. I think those were the three options, although I'm sure I'm gonna get that wrong.
Yep, couple other ROM hack references. It's kind of another trope at this point, right? Of every hack references every other hack.
It's a multiverse.
Exactly, the multiverse. Correct, multiverse ever expanding. So there's that. Then you get to the second half, and this is where everyone shits their pants once again, because the entire gameplay system changes. Kind of, to the extent that instead of this just being like a mystery dungeon crawler, all the PMD mechanics are still there, but it's effectively like a like a kind of like an auto battler, slash tactical RPG, whatever. I auto battler is the word that comes to mind more for me as well. It's just placing your units on a certain spot, and then you can give them certain items. So it's like up your special attack, your special attack, your defense, or your special defense. You only get one item per mon. So you switch like who do you want to have which one, and what moves do you want enabled. Now here's the thing: we've had so many hacks. Not to bring it back to CTC every single episode, but it seems like a lot of hacks have been trying to gravitate towards to like give you total control over every single aspect of the game, and just like min-max the shit, let you abuse every turn, like going the CTC route, right? That's a lot of ways that hacks have tried to balance it. This is opposite, because this is testing like your knowledge of how's the AI going to work here. So a lot of the times, in order to not have to deal with the AI, you want to only give them one move to use, but sometimes you don't, right? Because I found myself, I don't know about you, with a lot of these mons, I would have one attack move on, like the stab that is probably gonna hit most of the enemies, right? Like if I line up a unit on the right side of the screen, and the guy on the right is weak to one move, that's the only move I'm gonna put on, because that's probably who they're gonna attack. But also, like, let's give them a status move in case it's someone else. They can throw out I don't know, like a paralysis move or something like that. So interesting. It's interesting because that's something that, like I said, it's the total opposite of CTC. This is instead testing your knowledge of how does the AI work in this game? How does their pathing work? You know, like what tiles are they going to move up to, and recognizing like who moves first, what's the turn order, which that is the part of PMD that I'm more familiar with than a lot of the CTC stuff, just because I haven't really been using it. So I thought it was pretty cool, refreshing, and not a total like reset on your knowledge. The presentation of it, I think, is pretty cool, because this could totally just be really slow because it has to be turn-based. But it's not. It switches between them pretty quickly. This might actually be a setting that I changed in the options now that I think about it. But regardless, if you put it on fast and self, or no, yeah, fast and self. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But yeah, the camera like switches between them all very quickly, and there's not a lot of downtime. Just they already have their move queued when the camera shifts to them. They do their attack, and all that stuff. So you can just see it all happen without a lot of hesitation. Cool. There's like a level of depersonalization, right? Because the narrative, you're supposed to be like the master tactician, right? So it's like you're just seeing all the pawns in war moving around the board, as you have to. You cannot intervene and use an item. That's another thing, how this is so different from every other hack, because there's no items. Like, there is no items. There is no intervene, use items to bail you out. No. You have to play out the whole thing before it even starts. So you can't intervene. All you can do is watch and say, my units, please win this battle. It feels very different. Very different. So we're going to talk about the tutorial in a second, but for everything else, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'll have final thoughts a little bit after we talk about the tutorial and everything. I mean, I don't really have much to say, to be honest, because for, I reckon, 75% of my playthrough, it was for me, my tactics. I'm not that great at tactics. I've never played a tactics game, and for the most part, I was kind of just sticking Pokemon in positions where I think it might work, and hoping it would work. I mean, I wasn't that great at thinking 5 steps ahead, and so I don't have much to say really about the gameplay that yeah you haven't already said. I mean, for me, yeah, it was kind of yeah, it was. I probably had a tougher time than you. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, this is interesting. This is something that I want to ask too about. We're getting into the tutorial now, specifically how it seems like you didn't feel like you knew what the game was asking of you from when we talked about this hack before recording. Um, here's the thing. Always Positive Podcast. I'm really not sure about the tutorial for this game or for this half of the game, because the tutorial tells you to place your unit on one of the bonus tiles, right? Place your unit on the bonus tile, and it says that. Like, if you talk to the NPCs, it's like, you should position me so that I get the attack bonus or defense bonus. I forget which one it is. Because I didn't use either of them. Because if you put them on that tile, you're going to lose. Why? Because you move forward, and then the enemy gets to attack you, and you get out DPS'd because you let them get the initiative. So I honestly wonder what this is. I don't know if this is like genuinely the enemy was supposed to move first and that just didn't get added in time. I don't know if the point of it is like to have you lose at first and then you like come to the conclusion on your own of, okay, I move forward first, so I need to move back a tile instead so that they don't attack me. I don't know if they're trying to teach you that. I just thought it was a little strange that the tutorial explicitly tells you to do the wrong thing. And I won't go much further than that.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I am not a great tactician. I sort of only I very rarely in video games end up thinking 3-4 steps ahead. For me, most of the time it's about surviving the next move and going like I mean I almost started talking about how my play style with Xenoblade 3, but that's another story.
Okay.
But but yeah, I guess because of that, and because of, I guess, you know, who I am as a player, and all our brains are wired differently. I wasn't learning. Like it was sort of, again, it was almost, I just put Pokemon in not random places, but it was almost educated guessing, I think. And I think that's where I can understand maybe. I guess for me, I was thinking the dialogue beforehand was explaining what the tiles are, but I think you're right. I think the configuration of them meant that there was a disconnect between the tutorial and then the actual battle mechanics. I mean, I wrote here that tutorials by and large are very handholdy, I suppose, and so I mean it's kind of hard to do a handholding. Kind of hard to do a hand-holding with the PMD game engine. It's you have to really ASM it to even have like scripts in a dungeon that play out like a cutscene. I think only Fragments in this hack has actually done it, and I think Psychic Puppets as well. It's quite hard to do, but I guess normally if you have you're introducing a battle system to a player, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure is that you introduce the battle system in a way where it's an automatic win. Or if it is going to be a loss, then it's almost like, it's hard to, it's like, it was almost like a scripted loss, but then you get the solution, I think. I don't think it was intentional that the tutorial played out the way it did. I think the purpose of it was to introduce the tiles, But yeah, I know that I think I definitely, talking to people. I definitely probably struggled the most out of everyone that people saw stream this hack. There were skill issues. There were skill issues said a lot of times
I'm
in the
sure.
voice chat, and it was genuine. It wasn't. It wasn't. It's not a meme with me. I genuinely do have skill issues sometimes. I mean,
Mm.
it is a. You've seen me play dev builds of Spirit. You've seen me play harder hacks. It's I am more of an autopilot and survive the next move type of gamer
Hmm.
than a gamer that it relishes a challenge. I can do it once I learn the mechanics, but yeah, I think it just didn't match the play style. I wrote here, I think it took me about 4 attempts to beat the tutorial, and then even after that, at least a half dozen. I chose the Grass Kingdom as my first proper fight,
Okay.
and that took me about 6 or 7 tries to do. So yeah, it's fair to say that my I guess bullet points of this hack are probably probably not as good as yours, because I was spending most of my time just trying to rack my head around the battle system. This
Right.
second fight somehow, I think I finally got it by the second one, but
Okay.
yeah, it took a very long time to learn, probably longer than it should have.
Yeah, that's interesting. Tutorials, I think are very hard. I can
Oh yeah.
very, very hard. Like just from because here's the thing, right? Like you said, a lot of tutorials are very handholdy. That was a trend that was huge in 7th gen games, especially um of um just
Oh
having
yeah, I
having
remember the
blatant
complaints about that.
blatant
Yeah.
like the first 30 minutes of any game is just like dumping a whole bunch of stuff about mechanics and lock you in a tutorial room and all that stuff that people complain about on the internet all the time, right? And the reason why at the time, obviously they don't do it anymore, but the reason why at the time this was so common was because of this exact thing of like, well, what's the point in putting so much depth into all these mechanics and making all this cool stuff if no one really understands it? And they drop the game because they don't know what they're supposed to do, because that's obviously not what anyone wants. Making a good tutorial is very, very, very difficult, and by good, I guess I shouldn't say good. Making a tutorial that does not involve text is kind of the holy grail, right? The one that you hear about all the time, right? Is level 1-1 of Super Mario Brothers. Of the Goomba is positioned so that the first time that you jump onto it, you're going to hit that question mark block, and a mushroom's going to come out, and then you're going to run into the mushroom because you don't know what it is, and then you grow bigger. That's a tutorial, right? Doing that type of thing in Mystery Dungeon is really, really hard. And it's especially hard when you are jerry rigging an entirely new battle system into a game that is already hard to do tutorials in, right? So I don't know. I think tutorials for the autopilot discussion that comes up on every single podcast. Having good tutorialization and like we said for Merchants vs. Pirates last week, just having information be readily available, these things tend to be tied hand in hand. That I think is the key to getting people to kind of expand their toolkit beyond what they already understand from Mystery Dungeon, right? Because like there's a certain way that we all tend to play the game, and then when a hack comes in that changes things up, just because you as the dev you have your idea of what the game's going to be, doesn't mean that everyone that plays it is going to understand. And that's why tutorials exist. And I don't know. Like I said, we have our disagreements here because I think the way it was handled, besides the bait and switch type of thing of like you step on the tile and you lose. Like I said, I'm not too sure about that. But the way the game implements mechanics that are already part of PMD, right? I think that's a good way to limit the amount of endless text boxes that you have to just spit at someone, because it is kind of the same game. It's just taking one element out, and it's just I don't know, kind of talking in circles here. But like you said that you seem to have figured it out. Like the more repetition you had, and you started to understand the rules.
Yeah.
To me, that's a sign that the mechanics at least make sense on some principle, right? Like it may have taken you a while to understand, but it's not something that is incomprehensible. Which, again, that's really not easy, because this is very, very, very ambitious what he's trying to do, with introducing this entirely new gameplay system. But yeah, it's so here's a question for you, right? Because you had like a more negative experience with this. Do you think that this type of stuff, right, like integrating, like completely scrapping the dungeon crawling formula, right? This is you could also apply this to like Fragments Chapter 2 and stuff like that, right? Like taking the mystery dungeon out of mystery dungeon in general. Do you think that is? Do you like that? Do you like that? Do you think that like that's something that you're going to actively seek out? Because I'm not really sure what the answer is for me.
So I think I can explain this, and I think this really goes to, I think, I have to judge this hack as part of the Hack in Progress Awards. And I wrote here in my comments, and I think I'll probably answer your question and then also say my final thoughts about this, like the hack in general.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't seek this out unless it's something that I am interested in. So there is another hack that does this, called Turnabout Dimension, which is an absolutely bonkers tech demo that has, well, it's not a tech demo, it's a full-on jam submission. What am I saying? That pretty much recreates Ace Attorney in PMD. It is just, again, completely, it's not PMD. It's not, anything like it. Both of them involve a bait and switch. And I think that's where my mixed reaction to Rainbow Heritage has come from, is the bait and switch, where I was playing a normal mystery dungeon hack, and then suddenly I'm playing a auto tactics battler, Fire Emblem stuff, like that kind of stuff, right? And whereas a lot of people went, "Oh shit, holy shit, this is cool." It soured me on the hack. I almost wanted to go back to the dungeon crawling, and I think it's because it's not a genre that I've seeked out in the past.
Because you're
And
not already familiar with it, but you're familiar with Ace
yeah, I'm
Attorney,
not
is what
already
you're saying.
familiar with it, but
Okay.
yeah, like if I knew going into it that it was this type of game, then I would be able to set my expectations as, okay, I realize that I'm probably not going to be good at this, so I'm going to take a little bit more time to play it and to consider it and everything, Whereas, I was playing this on a voice chat, and I was playing this, again, expecting dungeon crawling and all that. And I was getting really invested in the story between Spinder and Ho-Oh, and then suddenly I'm thrust into it. And then, of course, when you're on a voice chat, you're not concentrating properly too. So then, it's. I think there was. I'm gonna borrow something that one of our other hack of the year juries has said, and he said this publicly, so it's not like I'm revealing it. It's Mingle. He very much commented that this really could have been two hacks. Like there was the difference between the two. You could have almost split the project in two and have a Spinner and Ho-Oh hack and a Fire Emblem hack. I think, I guess the difference is I would have seeked out Turnabout Dimension because I've played I've either watched playthroughs of or played through all 6 Ace Attorney games, mainline Ace Attorney games. Whereas Rainbow Heritage, I would be like, oh, that's cool, but I wouldn't seek it out, I suppose. Is that and I don't want this to be like, I'm not. I like the concept. I just personally didn't have a good time with it. Like I can separate how the effort and the technical wizardry and all that from my experience. I think it boils down to it's not for me.
Yeah, that's totally fair. This is I mean, we don't disagree too often on this podcast, but I really like this one. So it's a split opinions on this one. Try it for yourselves, people that are listening to the podcast, and come to your own conclusion. So that's the actual hack. Now, do you want to talk about the ARG? And hopefully this doesn't take a half hour because we're running late.
No, yeah, okay, no. So I'll be very brief. So the ARG is a little a bonus campaign that occurs after the To Be Continued, because this is a hack in progress, so there's a little bit more to it. But essentially, you are able to just clip into one of the pagodas that are there, and you end up in a completely black area, and you walk as Samurott, and you find Pichu crying and all that, and so cold and everything. And essentially what you then interact with is this sort of computer that, almost this sentient, this computer system that is the Well system's computer. And it asks you if you want to, bring back Pichu. And so you go through it, and essentially what you will receive with is a mock-up of the file system of the ROM. So essentially there's a few different things. Yeah, so essentially there's a few different things involved here. The first is, I won't spoil how to solve it, but I will say it involves ROM unpacking. It involves a GitHub repository. And this is where I spent then over a number of hours, like 3 days, but not 3 days total, like maybe 2.5 hours total. The third bit is the one that, and you probably saw in the hack discussion channel. The third bit was where I got completely stuck because it involved something I'd never been exposed to before, which was cryptology. And so I look, full disclosure, I couldn't solve it without some help, and big shout out to 8X who helped me. He didn't help me get the answer. It was one of those things where I could recognize some things were clues, but I didn't know what the significance of it was. So the cryptology stuff and all that. Once I got that there, then it turns into, then to save Pichu has to, now I forget the metaphors and I don't have them up here, but the one is, it's like a jump upwards platformer thing, where you got to jump on ledges while avoiding a rising tide and.
Hold on. Let me cut you off because I watched someone stream that part.
Yeah.
That is a clear as day reference to escaping the Ginzo tree in Ori and the Blind Forest. It even uses the exact same background music. It is the same thing. And that's really interesting. That's really interesting because to the thematic thing, which this applied more to City of Light, but like we said, the Innocence of Youth thing is in Rainbow Heritage as well with Pichu, which we didn't even talk about.
Pichu's context.
That fits shockingly well. And in hindsight, I should have not been surprised that this guy likes the Ori games if that's the type of content he's going with in the hack, right? But continue on. I love Ori and the Blind Forest and Will the Wisp. Great games.
I should clarify for those who haven't played Pichu. His arc is he wants to fight, but he's too young. But then he's like, well, I'm going to go off to the Fire Kingdom and fight, with them and fight. And then he gets captured and all that and suffers trauma and whatnot. And so you're saving him there. Now, I'll have two final points. The first is right now, completing it doesn't give you anything, except it does. It is logged in, it is logged that you did do it, and so that could have consequences down the line in terms of save file. Apparently, Techticks said it's one of the most obscure secrets in SkyTemple, reference wise and all that. So I probably 80% of it's probably flying over my head. But the other thing is, and I will read this out for you from the repository because obviously, Max, you didn't do this.
No.
All right. So, here is some lore. Well Systems Incorporated was founded on the remains of the formerly non-profit Scarlet Preservation Project.
Okay.
Following the mother computer's destruction, its code and data were split into tens of thousands of so-called shards, which traveled through space-time. The goal of the Scarlet Preservation Project was reprogramming the shards to turn them into something useful on their own. However, it was eventually abandoned due to a lack of funding. So the mother computer is referenced here.
Right.
So City of Light and all that. So that's where some of my questions come from. It's will Well Systems continue into the future, and all that. So that's my final.
So hold on. So Well Systems is a fragmentation of the fragmentation of the mother computer. In other words.
Yes. Well Systems is
okay.
Yeah, it says founded on the remains. Well, the goal of the project was to reprogram. So it's the mother computer was destroyed. This non-profit organization was set up. It split, and now Well Systems is the remains of
the remains of the remains.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, deep lore. Man, I wish I knew that before we recorded. I probably could have hatched up some kind of theory, but. That's for another time, folks. You won't have to hear me ramble about some bullshit that's fake that I made up. So, anything else you want to say, or should we move on to the interview?
Let's move on to the interview. I think we've proven that these are two very deep hacks. That I think this is probably the longest hack section we've ever had.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. See you later. And we're back. We are joined by Techticks to talk about both these hacks as well as potentially other things after first half, which is probably gonna have to get cut down in post because it's so long. But yeah, welcome, Yakko. Do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah. So, out of the questions I've got, what's sort of a good one? Well, they're all good, but what's a nice breed one? So, I guess I think Max has a question about this too. I really picked up on a lot of themes to do with, say, the innocence of youth and all that in both of the hacks, among other things. And two very different stories with Rainbow Heritage and City of Light. So I just wanted to ask, what are your inspirations, I suppose? What are you inspired by, when you're writing in the terms of the story side of things? I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes I do ask convoluted questions, so if you need me to clarify, just say.
No, it's okay. But it's actually a really tough one. So I'm I don't think I'm ever like consciously inspired by something. It's more like I don't know, like maybe listen to music, or I'm just, I don't know, in the shower or somewhere else, and then something comes up. So I think it's like a lot of subconscious inspirations. Though I don't know, I like games like I think maybe maybe it's like Undertale, Deltarune, and Nier Automata is one of my favorites, which has there's actually a lot of Easter eggs related to that, if you didn't know. And yeah, it's pretty much it, I think. But
Yakko,
Yeah,
you're a Nier Automata guy, right? Yakko?
I am, but I also know that I think I have more of a surface level appreciation of it rather than a deeper lore. Like I don't think I think given I would think that I didn't recognize a lot of references, to be honest. But that's just because it's been a couple of years since I played it, and I sort of um, yeah, I think I more have a surface level appreciation of it. It is a good game though. Play it. You'll get enjoyment no matter what from it. But yeah, it's I can definitely see that though. When you think about it now, I can definitely think about both hacks actually have yeah. You can definitely take stuff out of both hacks that you could say yeah, that's definitely near automata related. Um,
actually,
and I
what
could
do
yeah.
you? Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, I ramble. Go ahead.
Actually, what do you think the main inspirations were? I'd be kind of curious about that.
Well, we mentioned Ori because he brought up the ARG shit in the first
Oh,
half. So I'm like, oh, well, I could obviously see that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I personally haven't played enough games to sort of I know them on the surface level to sort of know, oh yeah, that's a bit from this and that's a bit from that. But um, yeah, I think definitely. I mean, I almost feel like, in a way, you're actually a little bit of your inspiration comes from fragments as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, of course. Yeah.
I definitely got big fragments vibes from when I was doing the ARG, even though I've only played chapter 2 so far, and and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get I'm gonna get I decided to just go, you know what, I don't want to go dark. Let's just have Plusle in 2 live happily ever after. So I didn't dig deep into that. I might later, but I could definitely
Oh,
tell
so
that
you didn't
fragments
get
is
the actual ending? Interesting.
no, no, no. I got the blissfully unaware. Let everyone be happy ending.
Yeah, but that's a nice one too. I think it's my favorite actually, but yeah, there's a lot more
The
to it.
nice ending. It's probably non-canon.
I don't know if it's non-canon, but there's like mm, less canon. I don't know. It's interesting to speculate about. Who knows what Earth Queer will do next? But yeah,
Good stuff. Let's see. Um, just scrolling down, it's like a lot of this is stuff that feels like already got answered. Here's another thing. Both these hacks, I feel like definitely when they came out felt very refreshing and like something new, right? For one reason or the other. I think there's a lot of different perspectives you can take on ROM hacking, right? It seems like the stuff that you're trying to make is stuff that could fit into like a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon setting, but it's not necessarily the exact same tone that they do with the actual release games, right? Like the whole Rainbow Heritage, like literally the concept of death is talked about a lot, stuff like that. And the idea of having warring factions, whatever. That's all stuff that when you think about, Pokemon conceptually, it's like, yeah, that could definitely happen. But it's not brought up. So is that something that you're explicitly interested in, just trying to do things that haven't been done before on from that lens?
Yeah, I think so. And like it's a bit weird because at the beginning of this whole ROM hacking explosion, so to say, I was more of a fan of really standard, let's say, ROM hacks that kind of stick close to the main setting and felt like pretty much logical extensions to Mystery Dungeon or like real Mystery Dungeon games. But I guess it just kind of got stale, especially from a gameplay perspective for me, because I played a lot of hacks and yeah, it kind of just felt the same because I think the gameplay, at least of Explorers of the Sky, is pretty limited compared to later entries and stuff like that. So I thought it could get stale pretty quickly, and then there were ROM hacks like Fragments that kind of experimented with the setting, and at least I thought they wouldn't like that, but then I kind of also got some yeah more some crazy ideas.
Right.
And yeah, so for Rainbow Heritage, kind of the idea was to start out. So there's this trope, for example, in a lot of the ADEX hacks that for example, there's like Mute in the cave, and it starts out like it seems pretty serious, but it gets pretty silly pretty quickly, and I kind of want to turn it on its head and start out pretty silly, and then kind of transition to a more serious setting because kind of just to subvert expectations there. And I tried to like build an environment by having it set in the past, and also by um yeah having a different setting like altogether with this town you had there, Koda village. And so I thought it would be an environment where I could kind of where it would make sense to kind of introduce some uh let's not more mature but some more serious themes and a different tone there. That was kind of the idea behind it. I don't know
Hmm.
if it fully succeeded there, but some people still mentioned that they kind of got some whiplash there, and that it yeah felt a bit jarring. But that was the idea behind it, at least, and maybe I can prove that a bit in the final release then.
Yeah, I think to address that last part first, I think it's always hard because you can't read people's minds that are playing your game, right? I think we both talked about in the first half, about how uh, both of us picked up on that, right? Of how there's the the innocent surface, right, with focusing on kids that have just no concept of consequences or anything, and they're whatever, and then they go off into you know really dangerous stuff that they probably shouldn't be. And the whole, um, I would say, Yakko, I don't want to put words in your mouth because I don't think we ever actually talked about that part, but I liked it. I think that it's like that's something that to what you're saying, that is very much not usually how PMD does it, right? Like the dark undertones are there, but not as blatant as like the mother computer scene in City of Light, for example. To where when that came up though, I don't know. I didn't think that was jarring. I guess I throw my opinion out there. I don't think it was.
Yeah, I agree with with you, Max. Yeah, I kind of really I enjoyed the fish out of water stuff almost, which with the kids sort of being in this really dark sort of place. Because I mean, yeah, I really I don't have much else to sort of expand on that. I also quite liked the concept of two innocent kids that get involved in something that is probably way beyond their understanding to even fear it.
So here's another question. From your answer, you opened up talking about all the gameplay differences, right? And there's a couple people on this podcast now have like brought up the fact that Iroquois kind of like blew the doors open on for PM. I guess the question is, and this is a very like vague, nebulous question, so apologies in advance. But what do you think is like? What do you think is the next step for integrating brand new mechanics like that? And what do you think are like what do you think are the boundaries that need to be blown open, and then hacks are going to get really crazy, or something like that? Like where do you think we go from here to where it becomes a regular occurrence that hacks are totally integrating brand new gameplay systems on a wide scale?
I kind of feel like we have broken one of these barriers already, especially thanks to all the documentation we have already. For example, like big props to username for setting up the entire PMD Sky debug repository. So if you don't know what it is, it's a technical documentation of all the inner workings of the game, and it's really great, and a lot of effort is being put into it um, to really have a clean documentation there and to maintain that. And it's also kind of what a lot of so it's also structured, so it can be used so it can be read by humans, but it can also be used by things like SkyTemple, Sea of Time, etc. So I think that's one really good thing we have here that has already kind of broken down a barrier, because now people like me, honestly, could do things like that because of all that documentation, because there was no way I could have figured all of that out by my own. It was mostly just stuff that was already documented. I think the next big step that would kind of break down all the barriers would actually be a decomp. So a decompilation of the entire source code so that you can directly edit the code, like you have, for example, with Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, um, and they can do really good, really cool stuff with that. And I think that would be the next step, but that's pretty far away. But honestly, we are all already documentation-wise in a really good state. So we already we would have a lot to work with if somebody kickstarted that. And I think it's about time somebody does. It won't be me, because I don't have time for that, sadly. But yeah.
Got it. Exciting stuff. And um, same question, but not exactly the same question, but kind of the same question, but creatively, I wonder, because I think I speak for both of us saying before playing Rainbow Heritage, neither Yakko or I would have asked for turning PMD into a tactical RPG, but it happened to work, right? Like creatively, is there anything else going through your head right now about like certain concepts that you think could work in practice? Or even if not just like radically shifting the game like that, just like extra things that could be added onto base PMD that that could fundamentally change how it plays in a different way than like changing the genre of the game, right? Anything that comes to mind for you right now for that?
Yeah, what kind of comes to my mind is I've already kind of talked enough about it, but if you look at the trailer for Fragments Chapter 4, it does some really cool things, like really change up the UI and give the game kind of its unique art style. And I think that's really cool to kind of stand out and make you feel like you're playing a different game, even not just a ROM hack of an existing game. And I think that's really cool. Also, like I think you can kind of look at what Fragments did and predict the future from there, because Fragments Chapter 1 did switching of team members. So you could switch your player and partner, and like 1 year later, there was the hack jam where everybody did it.
All right.
Then there were custom game mechanics which people, so that was in chapter 3, which people also started to do. And I think there will be like puzzles in dungeons next, and then people will experiment with art styles, because that's the new big thing in chapter 4. It's like always ahead of its time by like 1 year. So I think that's kind of interesting to just look at.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, that's undoubtedly a trend, right? It's cool because you mentioned earlier that you play a lot of hacks. We're at the point now where we're about like 2 years in. We can actually start really having these conversations about like so and so is influential, right? That's pretty cool. That's like half the fun of art discourse and arguing with people online, right? Saying that that your favorite game, album, movie, TV show is influential. Look at all these things that copied it, and the guy you're replying to says, "No, you're wrong. That they actually copied this guy from 10 years ago." So we're about to start getting that in SkyTemple discourse. I'm a big fan of that stuff. But yeah, no doubt that fragment hacks have been, like you said, creeping up in all the other hacks that come after it. So
Yeah, but maybe if I can like elaborate on non-fragment stuff a bit. The other reasons why these two hacks kind of happened. So one of them was that I watched a YouTube video where someone was like, would be cool if there was an auto chess Pokemon game. And I thought like, wait a minute, we could do that. We just turn off the player AI and that's it, right? And you already have like the grid and other stuff in PMD. So that's not really that hard to make, right?
So you got that from someone in the YouTube comment section.
No, I think it was like in a video someone said like, I don't remember what it was, but it was like wishes for future Pokemon games. Somebody mentioned it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a random anecdote, and then I was like, wait a minute, that would
Right, I
work.
can do
And
that.
then yeah, and then we got documentation about how the entire dungeon stuff works in the code, and it was like, yeah,
Perfect.
it's like the opposite of complete team control, kind of, because if you know
Yep.
how to make that, you can make the opposite, right?
Yes, instead of complete team control, technically it's no team
No team
control.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NTC. There you go. There's some marketing for you.
Ooh.
there's something, and perhaps well, actually no. I'll ask. Do you mind if I ask?
Yeah, go
one?
ahead.
I don't know if you're done. Yeah. So, I mean, look, I asked. My questions aren't probably as deep, but I think this is something I actually do really want to discuss. I am really so City of Light. I'm really curious about what sort of what your intentions were with the ending of that hack, because and me being on the jury as well, that I know the ending, I think we can both agree, got a little bit of a mixed reaction in terms of people who, I guess, didn't sort of, I guess, it's hard. I don't look. I'm saying generically, so I can say like didn't get sort of exactly the ending. It wasn't explicitly written. People wondering, oh, what's going to happen to Fomantis and Poipole, and they were sort of struggling to connect the theme. So and I noticed, and you afterwards put in a post credit scene that kind of did that. So I guess did the feedback you get from City of Light contribute to that post credit scene, or was it always planned because of the other stuff that you perhaps were thinking of making in the future or incorporating or all that?
Yeah, it was planned for the hack gem
Mm.
version, but ran out of time. If I may elaborate maybe a bit, go on a tangent here. So,
Sure.
City of Light, it was a bit of a weird story because so how this thing started was like several months or something before the hack jam. I was kind of thinking in PMD we have this trope where you go to a different world. For example, spoilers, the dark future in Explorers of Sky or the Voidlands in Super Mystery Dungeon. And so I was kind of thinking, hey, if we had a Gen 7 PMD or a modern PMD, maybe you would go to a world that has the Ultra Beasts. And so I was kind of thinking, then maybe would be cool to like make some kind of special episode to kind of give you insights. Like it's also just a society where there are just people like in the normal world, just normal Pokemon, but they just look kind of weird and live in this weird world, right? And so I kind of want to. I thought it would be cool to flesh this out, but it was all just theoretical. And then the hack jam started, and I wasn't planning on participating or anything. I wasn't really planning on doing Explorers of Sky ROM hacking at all. But so the interesting thing was in a zip file published by EarthQueer, there was this file called sndstream.txt. And so what was pretty obvious it would do is it allowed EarthQueer to play custom music in the secret boss. And so that was pretty cool. So I kind of wanted to look into that. And so I was kind of poking around. Fragment Chapter 3 was looking like what is it doing in memory, and it was actually pretty easy to figure out in like a few hours, but nobody kind of looked into it. And then I knew how to use it, and I was like, maybe I could like put it to creative use and make something cool with it. And because the theme was what was it? It was
Various
various viewpoints.
viewpoints.
Exactly, yeah. And I thought, okay, maybe this idea works because it's like that's what it's about, right? You're like a Pokemon from one of these two worlds, and then you kind of get to know that the other ones just it's weird, but there's like normal people in there, right? And yeah, so I started it 3 weeks into the hack jam. Thank God it got extended by 1 week because it there was no way I could have finished this otherwise. And so I had 2 weeks in total then instead of 5. The release was really messy. Like the final boss was just the stock sprite instead of what I wanted, and it was kind of a mess in general. I have no idea how this thing got in third place in the initial release, but yeah. What was the question again?
No, that does. Well, it doesn't. Well, you've pretty much answered the question was, was the post credit scene was that always intended,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It was intended, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry for the
fair
super
enough,
long
fair
answer.
enough. No, no, that's fine. I'm great because City of Light, as I think I've said, if I haven't said it to you, I've said it in the pod that it really was an underrated gem of the of the podcast of the hack jam, and yeah, the results it got showed, it was really yeah, it was really a victim of the flaw of only being able to pick one winner for each category, and one hack
Yeah, I mean it
sweeping
was
or two hacks
up
sweeping.
against stuff like psychic puppets, so
Yeah.
at least I participated in the jam without edicts then, so there was a chance at winning, but yeah.
Cool.
Ask that last one, Echo, or the first one.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, you finish out, then
Yeah.
I'll do the rest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So look, as you know, I tried the ARG. I did end up completing it. I don't know if you actually saw that I did, but I did end up completing
Yes,
it.
I did.
Um,
Congrats.
I really enjoyed the concept of it. I mean, you know me, I love a good fourth wall break and all that and everything. So, I mean, look, it's probably it's probably a question that you might not want to answer, but will we see any more ARG stuff in the future? Is that going to be a bit of a thing moving forward, or I guess you're not sure yet, I suppose.
I don't know if it will be like strictly ARG stuff like this. I don't know if it even qualifies as ARG, but yeah, I think there will be some kinds of secrets at least. Maybe not as big as this one, but I think it's a cool thing to do.
Mm. Yeah, I really like the concept of it. I actually, this is one of the few things where like I found fun even though I was struggling. Like usually when I struggle with something, but this one, like I really was like cool. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out even if it takes me a week, a week longer than everyone else. So yeah, and Max picked up the which I didn't because I haven't played it, but Max did pick up the Ori reference as well in there too. I know you really you even though when I told, well, you saw that bit, didn't you, Max? That's right.
Yeah,
Memory's fading.
someone else streamed it. Yeah, full transparency, I did not bother to do that. Sorry, I'm I'm a fake gamer. I saw someone else play that part before I actually played the hack, so I was like, okay, it's the Ginzo tree. And then I actually played through the hack, and that, you know, gears started spinning and all that stuff, and good times. Ori's a great game. And that's, you know, we already talked about that enough in the first half, but
Yeah. And my other question is, again, a bit of a lighter one. Will we see the Wells Systems brand continue to be publishing hacks in the future? Because I know Max said he really enjoyed that sort of aspect of it, the Wells Systems whole, you know, I guess, you know, company front behind that.
I like gimmicky viral marketing. What can I say?
Yeah. Yeah, so Wells Systems is Wells Systems still operating, I guess, shall we say.
I don't know. I hope not. It was a really weird and shady company, and I had to work so much for them, but thankfully I'm off the hook now and don't work with them anymore.
You
So,
were only contracted for one game. You're out of your deal.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. But I like so I still got it. I stole the source code from them and all of that. So don't worry about that. But they left like all sorts of weird traces in the ROM, and I don't know if I'll be able to get rid of all of that.
We shall see.
All
right, Max.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was doing a transition. Don't worry.
Oh, that
So
failed.
listen, we do this podcast in one take. We keep this stuff in. Let's talk a little bit about Dream Nexus, which none of us really keep up with that, but I believe you are the head behind that project, if not at least someone who's heavily involved with it. Could you tell us?
Yeah, kind of.
Could you tell us a little bit more about it? And all I know is that it's like based off the SkyTemple UI. So what it is and why is it cool? You know, what are the cool stuff you can do with it, and then follow up after that. Any news on your upcoming hack? But first, you know, about the program itself. What should we know, people who are only involved with SkyTemple and don't really know much about that?
Yeah, so the thing with Dream Nexus is was kind of developed like around the same time as SkyTemple before it really took off. So at the beginning there was so many people, or several people at least, were kind of working on that, and there was a lot of progress. And yeah, I kind of got involved because I figured out how to swap models in the game or import new 3D models. Um, but then I just kind of took it over, and it's so the project itself is a ROM editor for Rescue Team DX, and there's support for PSMD has already been announced, but it's kind of on hold right now because there's still a lot of bugs and other stuff I have to sort out to kind of make it a good experience in Rescue Team DX first. But yeah, if you're interested, definitely give it a try. It's available on dreamnexus.app. You can join a Discord server if you want. So why is it cool? That's actually a good question, and I've kind of asked it myself because we're at a time where Explorers of Sky hacking is so much more advanced now and also much more accessible. So what's the unique things? Well, I think you can do really cool things in 3D, right? You can do like dynamic cameras in your cutscenes. So you can do cutscenes, even though it's not that well documented yet and things like these. But feel free to hop on the server and ask me, of course. Um, but yeah, I think just by expanding to kind of the third dimension and also having some gameplay systems that I think were kind of improved from Explorers of Sky, though your mileage may vary here. I think there's several cool things you can do there that are kind of unique to the game.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times when working on Spirit to connect with personal story that I wish there was a free camera. So that's that's definitely a selling point for sure. Dream Nexus. And then anything that we should know about your upcoming Rescue Team DX hack got announced.
Yeah, so it's called Flames of Chaos, and you might see a familiar figure there actually, if you watch out closely. Um, Otherwise, it's got a bit of a gameplay twist to it, not as much as Rainbow Heritage, but basically what you do is you're a group of Litwick. You're pretty weak, so what you have to do is kind of sneak up on enemies, and so if you attack them from behind, you can one-hit KO them and then leash some of their soul energy, and it's kind of your belly replacement that keeps you going in a dungeon. So that's the kind of gameplay I'm aiming for here.
Interesting. We got a stealth PMD. What I'm hearing.
Kind of.
Hey.
Let's see if this works out well, but I hope it will.
Oh, it sounds pretty interesting to me. Okay. And with that, 30 seconds or less, why is Rainbow Heritage going to win Best Hack in Progress?
Right. So it's got a unique gameplay and setting it's in, and so there's a lot more to come, right? There will be gameplay improvements I will look into to kind of make it so that you're more in control of the things that are happening and new things you can do. You will have a complete story, of course, and yeah, hope you're looking forward to that. Is the countdown in the background?
That's 30 seconds.
Was making me really nervous. Yeah, nice.
30 seconds. Yep. Perfect.
I'm glad I don't hear the music via the Discord call because I would go crazy.
Yeah, no, that's edited in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an unnecessary stress. Maybe we should have the 60 minutes, the clock ticking. Yeah. Okay. And anything else that you want to say that we didn't mention before we ended the interview?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, thanks for having me and for this great podcast.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
That's it. Episode 12, SkyTemple Podcast. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.